It is one of the worst case scenarios you might imagine, a convicted sex offender making balloon animals for kids.
Tonight, a News 4 I-Team investigation found it's happened repeatedly in Middle Tennessee. And the last time the sex offender was busted, the charges were dropped. Our chief investigative reporter, Jeremy Finley, is here with some information even the judge didn't know.
That's right. The sex offender in this case lists as one of his professions a balloon artist. He even has his own stage name, Mr. Twisty. And making balloons for profit has got him in trouble before. But a judge ultimately ruled in this most recent case, the offender didn't violate the terms of his probation. The judge also didn't know what a witness tells the News 4 I-Team. Sean McKinney was so troubled by what he saw at a Sounds game in April, he began to photograph it.
I could hear his conversations with children that were standing around him.
McKinney, a criminal attorney, quickly realized why the man making the balloon hats and animals for kids looked familiar. He'd watched the man's criminal hearing years before.
His stage name, if you will, Mr. Twisty, I thought it was creepy.
Mr. Twisty is Larry Valentine, a convicted sex offender for violations against children. A man the News 4 I-Team has uncovered with a troubling pattern of behavior, repeatedly making balloon animals for children, even though he's forbidden to have a job where he comes in contact with minors. But here he is at the Main Street Festival in Franklin in 2015. In 2012, Metro Police documented Valentine's own computer containing pictures of himself working as a balloon artist around kids. Each time, he was found in violation of the terms of his probation. Yet McKinney documented Valentine doing it again at the Sounds game.
It caught my attention. You know, this guy's making balloons for children, and he's a convicted sex offender.
McKinney alerted police, and ultimately, prosecutors charged him for violating his probation. But Judge Sam Coleman then made this ruling, captured on audio from the hearing last month.
I dismiss this case.
People may see this story and say, you have a sex offender who is making balloons around children. He was charged with a crime, and you dismiss the charge.
You make your decision on the law and the facts that are laid out before you. And in this particular case, that's what I did.
So how did the judge reach that decision? Listen to the audio from the hearing, a hearing where Valentine himself testified that he was only having fun.
Sometimes I like to be entertaining, and it gets boring between innings.
It's not unusual that you would do balloons for people wherever you might be.
No, sir.
Valentine was charged because he's prohibited from engaging in a profession, whether compensated or not, within 1,000 feet of a public park. His attorney argued Valentine wasn't hired by the Sounds and didn't get tips, so it wasn't his profession that day, and that the Sounds Stadium isn't considered a park. The judge agreed.
The law is what it is, and it is not up to me to sit up here and be emotional about one side or the other. That's not my job.
But there was one thing missing from the hearing, and that was Sean McKinney. He wasn't asked to testify. And if he did, he tells the News 4 I-Team he would have revealed what he says he and his friends heard Valentine saying to some of the children getting balloons.
What caught my attention is some of the perverted jokes he was making to children about whether it was a boy dog or had a long tail. After the third genitalia joke, he really caught my attention.
McKinney says he doesn't know if his testimony would have made a difference. He just wonders if he'll see Valentine at it again.
He's just so brazen and willing, and I don't know if he's addicted to it or what. He can't leave this type of scenario involving children alone.
Now, we wanted to ask Larry Valentine why he thinks it's okay for him to make balloons for children, but he's in jail. He just started serving time for that probation violation at the Main Street Festival in Franklin. I should also point out, as soon as the Sounds learned he was making balloons in the stands, they ejected him and called police. A spokeswoman for the DA's office tells me that they can still send this case to a grand jury.
A convicted sex offender forbidden to work as a professional balloon artist was around more children at more festivals than previously thought.
The News 4 I-Team has obtained more photographs of Larry Valentine, also known by the stage name Mr. Twisty. The pictures prove he was in direct contact with children. Let's get the latest now from our chief investigative reporter, Jeremy Finley.
So let's remember the terms of his violation. Larry Valentine is forbidden from working in a profession within 1,000 feet of children. It's gotten him in trouble before, in some cases when he was making balloon art for kids. In fact, he's now in jail for a probation violation. Despite that, we found more photographs of him making balloons for children. And in one case, a photograph was taken by one of his peers, wanting to expose him. When Mr. Twisty performed in Franklin in 2015, Robin Parker took a picture. She didn't know him from the balloon artist community, so she sent it to another peer who knew all about Mr. Twisty.
I alerted the local security there, and they escorted him off the property.
Mr. Twisty, a News 4 I-Team investigation found, is Larry Valentine, a convicted child sex offender, forbidden to work as a balloon artist around children. But our investigation found him doing just that at other festivals. And this year, he was seen even making balloon art for kids at the Sound Stadium. Now this picture indicates he was also at this festival and this one in Michigan in 2013, again making balloon art for children. A local newspaper ran the photo, describing him as Mr. Twisty from Nashville. So far, the News 4 I-Team has obtained 5 photos of Valentine wearing different shirts at different events, making balloons for children.
Honestly, I was frustrated that it took so long to get him out of the system.
Sam Cremines is among the balloon artists in Nashville who tell the News 4 I-Team they told police that Valentine was working at fairs, even restaurants.
It places him in a situation that can be dangerous to the children, and the resulting answer was there was, again, nothing we can do about it. As long as it's a supervised situation, it's perfectly legal.
You may be wondering, how can that possibly be? Take a look at the law. It says a sex offender can't engage in employment if he or she is in unsupervised contact with a minor. So, if other adults are around, like at a restaurant or stadium or a festival, does that mean he's supervised? It's a question that plagues the balloon art community, who regardless vows to keep exposing him.
If that one of the people that operates within the industry does such a heinous act, we blackball and blacklist him instantly. You see this guy and he shows up every now and again and your hands are tied. There's nothing you can do.
And it's also confusing as to how he is held accountable. When he was busted for working as a balloon artist at the Main Street Festival in Franklin, he was charged and pleaded guilty. But when he was making balloon art at the Sound Stadium, his charge was dropped. Valentine's attorney argued at that time his client wasn't being paid. He was just doing it to entertain kids, something these photos show that he was doing a lot of.
A confusing sort of fine line, but we don't have to worry, at least for the time being.
That's right. He is in jail in Williamson County again on a probation violation. But the question is, how does it happen differently in a different case? Lots of questions still.
Yeah, and you'll be watching it.
We sure will.
Thanks, Jeremy.